Hi, and welcome to Steve Wraith's True Crime Interviews. And as you know, I sometimes get former criminals on, I get authors on, I get people of interest on. And I'm delighted to welcome a close friend of mine, Ryan Barby, who is, cram this in, close protection operative, MMA fighter, personal trainer, level 3, a doorman, ex-British Army Airborne Forces. This guy's done it all, and he's only 33. And I think I've crammed a lot into my 50 years, but you, Ryan, wow, what a life story. Thanks for coming on. Great to have you on the show, mate.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Steve. I haven't seen you in a while. I think last time we catched up was in person in Newcastle. That was a good event, that was, and had a good night with you.
Yeah, great to see you, mate. Great to see you. And I know we've been trying to get you on for the last few months, but finally done it. And as I do with all my guests, I like to go back to the start. Just tell us a little bit about your upbringing. Where were you born, first of all, and what was your childhood like?
Yeah, I was born in Kettering General Hospital, which is obviously the town next to us at Corby. So spent all my youth up in Corby, great town. Still got friends and family there to this day. Can't complain. It was just like normal upbringing, really, sort of thing. I quite enjoyed my boxing as a kid. I spent most of my childhood boxing. That was my go-to sport. I loved watching all the fights growing up, sort of thing, in my era of all your even the old clips of Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, all them sort of Hagler and Hands and everything. But my sort of era, people like Lennox Lewis, and that was on the scene. I just enjoyed. I quite had a thing for boxing as a youth, and then just growing up in that town was brilliant. School was fine. Didn't really have any issues and everything. It was all great.
Well, did you stick in at school? Did you come away with some decent qualifications?
I was just sort of really in the middle. School, I quite enjoyed physical aspects of it, of school. I didn't mind going, it was all right, but I was always more inclined to the sport. I used to try all the sports. I never really liked football that much, but I used to play in try and get in the football team and go to matches. I used to play for the school basketball team just because you get to go out of class, really. So I was just always into my sports and things, really, my memories of school. I can't remember too much of it, but I remember just always enjoying the sports side of school and the socialising.
Were you one of those kids who was excelled at every sport, or were you, obviously you said you fell in love with boxing, but I mean, did you do well at basketball? Did you do well at football? Did you easily fit into each sport category and do well at all of them?
No, to be fair, I was pretty useless at all sports, really. I was never really that great at them, to be fair. I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fitness side of things, the cross country. I've always just enjoyed the fitness. That's what my memories from school. I just always trying to play all the sports and things like that. But I had a good time. I never disliked school. I thought it was all right, to be fair.
I think you're one of the first people that I've ever heard say I enjoyed cross country, because that was one of my pet hates, Ryan, at school. And I was one of those who used to be at the back. And I knew this by the time you'd done the cross country a couple of times, you knew the routine, you knew which way you were going. And I was one of those who was at the back. Probably having a sly cigarette with one of the lads, and then trying, as you came around the corner, pretending you'd been running all that time. I even got the bus one day on my cross-country run, and we got back first, which, of course, had alarm bells ringing with the teachers, and, of course, got found out. But, yeah, first person I've ever heard said that enjoyed.
Yeah, a lot of people find it quite boring, but I always quite enjoyed the running, to be fair, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, family life, did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I've got my two young brothers. They were more into the football sort of thing. One of them does a lot of Thai boxing now, but they were into the football. They were quite sporty as well, to be fair. But yeah, so I'm two young brothers, then mum and dad. But
it sounds like a happy childhood then.
Yeah.
I mean, what did your parents do?
Yeah, well, it was my dad that got me into martial arts and combat sports originally, to be fair, because he first took me when I was 5, but you're supposed to be 7 to join, but his best friend at the time, Darren, he was one of the instructors at the club, so they just managed to get us in 2 years early, thankfully.
Yeah, it's excellent, great stuff. So obviously, when you're getting towards your end of school days, what were your ambitions? What was the young Ryan Barby wanting to be?
To be fair, I was actively boxing at the time, but I remember when I was because you used to be able, in my area, you used to be able to leave school at 16. So I applied for the British Army at I think going at 15 and 7 months, I think it was, you could apply. And then as soon as you turn 16, when you leave school, you're straight into it. So I went to straight up to Harrogate, which is like the junior intake. But when I was at school, I said to all my teachers and stuff, like I really wanted to like go in the British military. I always watched all the war films and stuff. I was always just like fascinated with that, and just always, I don't even know why. No one in my family was military, not one person really. So I didn't. The same with like boxing. A lot of things I've done doesn't really fit into my family. I was just always interested in other things. My dad, like, they was like mad on motorbikes. He was like crazy on motorbikes, but I never even like bothered with motorbikes at all. I was always drawn to other things. But the military was my thing. So I did all my research. I signed up, and then I was good to go. And then I was going to go to my local infantry unit originally, like Royal Angling. But then when I was at a recruitment office and when I was in training, I started doing quite good at my like fitness. And when I started joining some of the boxing teams, getting into boxing, some of the airborne units said, "Oh, if you go into one of the airborne units, their main thing that they like is the boxing, so you get to do boxing all the time." So that was me sold there, and I didn't really think far into the future that I'd be jumping out of planes years down the line. I just thought when they said the word like, "Oh, they like the boxing and stuff," I was like, "Oh, right, sign me up. I'll go and do that then." So that's how I ended up going into that unit eventually.
No military background, as you say, nobody in your family going for it. I mean, what was your parents' reaction? I guess especially your mum, because mums obviously worry. And as soon as a son says, "I want to join, the military or go in the army or go in the RAF," panic stations, I would imagine, from your mum, was it?
Yeah, like whittle at the best of times. You always like whittle, don't they, your mum and everything. But they were quite supportive though. My dad was like good. I always had this like thing where we always try and prove to my dad that I was like tough, or try and like do all that sort of like relationship sort of thing as well, I suppose, subconsciously. Now I've realised when I'm older, looking back on it. But when I went in, obviously the Iraq and Afghanistan, etc., was all sort of like kicking off in the Middle East. So I actually went in at like a good time where it was like really, really active. Obviously 9/11 had happened and all that sort of stuff, because it all in your military career, it all depends like when you join up. If you join like after the Falklands War, there was a bit of a gap, wasn't there, before anything really kicked off. And then if anyone's in the military like now sort of thing, it's quite a downtime as well. There's not much going on now. But so in a sense, I was quite like lucky that I went in at like really like active like time periods.
So tell us about that I guess those first 12 weeks are the most important when you join up. You have to go through your basic training to see whether you can cope. And I gather that from your perspective, the fitness side wouldn't have been an issue, because here's a guy who loves sport and who loves cross country. So fitness should have been easy for you. But that would mean that the mental side of it hasn't been tested, and that's the hard part. Now, I can only speak from a relatively small amount of experience. I was in the TA, which I know was frowned upon by many of the regular servicemen. But when I went in the TA, I did it to discipline myself, and I just, I was at a major turning point, a crossroads in my life. I could have gone this way or the other, and I did it for the right reasons. But I know mentally I couldn't have coped in the army or the Navy or the Royal Air Force, because the discipline really killed me. And I didn't take no authority, put it that way. So from your perspective, how did you deal with that?
Way I dealt with it, so I always had this sort of like tactics I learned like quite early on in the military, which I'd recommend to anyone. Is like try your best not to contact home like at all, really, unless it's like an emergency. Because if you contact back home, it's like subconsciously like, in your brain. Then you start thinking, "Oh, I could just jack this in. Like, why am I cold, wet outside, and hungry, and getting like beasted all the time? I could just be in bed with my missus and like go and take my dog out for a walk, or someone sends me a picture of your dog and like things like that." But if you don't like if you try and cut away from it, it's not in your brain. So that was my tactics. And when I was away, especially if I was on operations abroad anywhere, I used to like virtually like cut loose. I didn't used to speak to anyone back home at all. Like that'd be my way of mentally dealing with it.
Was there anything you struggled with, in your basic training? I mean, you do everything. I mean, tell us a little bit about the basic training as well. What you actually have to do in those first 12 weeks.
Well, basic training is just it's just sort of like weed out the weak, really, and the people that want to be there who don't want to be there, sort of like the talkers from the walkers sort of thing, really. Because a lot of people are like keen to join, but when they get there, they sort of like have a bit of culture shock. And even like the people that are like really fit or really like switched on intelligent sort of thing, it's not really them sort of people that survive like to the end. When you get to the pass out parades and stuff, normally quite a few people surprise you, because in the first week, whoever's at the front of the runs, like doing really well and smashing it, sometimes they're the people that don't make it, and then some other people at the back who just like got really strong will and just that sort of attitude, like they never quit. Then they're the ones that surprise you and think, oh, I didn't expect to see him at the end, but they just crack on, because it's more the elements, Steve, that rather than your physical attributes of your mental toughness. And elements, what I mean by elements is like how you deal in the cold weather. That's the hardest thing in my military career, is dealing with cold weather. And people that haven't been in a situation probably don't understand. Like, if you're out living in the woods for weeks on end and it's the first night and you're absolute drenched, you're freezing cold, like the hands are like purple and you can't stop shivering, and you know you've got another like X amount of weeks of doing that, like that's enough. Like, doesn't matter how fit you are, that's enough to break people. And then when you go on these runs and your tabs, you've always got the weight on your back. You're always getting blisters on your feet, because when you're training in the gym, it's like really comfortable. It's nice and warm. There's music on, and you can go at your own pace and stuff. But when you're out on the exercises, you ain't had much sleep, or hardly any sleep at all. If I haven't had any proper food, like you're cold, wet, miserable, and like that's when it like becomes like quite tough. And it's the elements that sort of kill most people off. But when it starts raining and windy, a lot of people just like sort of like jacket in, and plus they know what they're doing in the airborne units as well. They know how to break people, because one of the things I'll never forget, what broke most of the people on our course was in Wales doing the penny fan. We're doing a tab. I think it's like 20 odd miles. I feel like 23 miles or until whatever. It's quite a long distance up and down the hills. And when it got us to the halfway point, they sat us down on your Bergen. I remember like seeing it, thinking. The wagon and everything, I thought, I was like buzzing. I thought, it's finally done. I was literally had nothing left in the tank. None of us did. Then when they sat us down, they had all the hot brews and stuff in the back, and they said, at this halfway point, if you want to continue, put your bag back on. We're going back again. And everyone was like buzzing. Thought that was it done. And we're literally like 50% of the course just there, and then just thought, just jumped on the wagon sort of thing. We used to call it the jack wagon. There's always a vehicle that follows you, and then because they don't care if you quit or not, they just want you to go to A to B. Off you go, and then if you keep up the pack, you're on to the next day. If you don't, like, see you later. You've got a number written on you. They just call you by your number. They don't even know your name. So they've got no emotional attachment. They're just like, number 6, like, you're off. Number 24, you're off. Number 17, good lad, you kept up. You can stay till the next day, and you just keep getting smashed every single day. But it's just your ability to like sort of deal with injuries as well, because everyone gets injured. But that's why I was lucky that I joined when I was young, also like 16, 17, because when you're that age, you don't really get many injuries. Also, as you get older, the injuries sort of creep up on you.
I mean, from your perspective, in your group, if you like, the people who started off with you, how many got through? How many actually passed out?
From based on, I think on when you go onto like the P company, there's like people that already passed everything else, so they are like currently like a soldier, and then they go on to do it the specialist training, which is like the P company, but not really many passed on our course, to be fair. Like, look, from the start, from screening like to the end, because you do like all your tests, it's very small percentage of people that make it through, to be fair.
Yeah, it looks tough. And I mean, I've watched various TV programs. It's become something which is, commonplace now, and a lot of reality shows, which I guess only show a very fraction of what you actually have to go through, to become, trained to a certain level. But yeah, it's become, a little glimpse into it. We've talked about P Company because I've loaded, and you can find it in the playlist on my YouTube channel, a documentary that was made about P Company many, many years ago. Was one of my most viewed videos when I put it up the first time. I did take it down for a couple of years, but I put it back up, and it's been well received. I mean, that looks so harsh. Was that documentary accurate? I appreciate that was probably slightly before your time, but had things changed dramatically? And was that accurate, that documentary?
Yeah, the documentary presented it well. It was a good good insight sort of thing. Put a lot of rumours to bed. The thing is, the thing about that is, at the end when you do like your test week, which is the final like tests, what some people try and do like test week to see how they'd like fit up against it. But what they like forget is what we did in real time, like the past weeks or month leading up to it. We were getting hammered like 4 times a day leading up to it. So when we get to test week, like our bodies are like battered, and then we go on it. So I think that's the only misconception some going to get when they show, these are the tests to pass to get in. But in real life, you'd get hammered up till test week, and then you get on to test week. So a lot of the lads, all of us, when we get on to test week, we're like, I've been absolutely like battered. We're probably a good few kilos lighter than we were walking around when we first started, and we've probably got a few tight hamstrings and a few blisters, Steve. You know what I mean?
I think the one thing that always strikes me is the camaraderie, and I mean, you've got each other's backs, but on top of that, you've been trained to kill, Ryan. Let's not beat around the bush here. Did that really sink in with you? Because you've always struck me as a really nice lad, and sometimes you see people going into the military, they're not nice pieces of work, some of these people, and being trained to kill is something they're going in to relish. Was that something that really struck you, as you were doing it, or later in the day, once you'd passed, you passed out and you joined full time?
Yeah, I think they ramp you up and make you turn it on if you have to. Like when we're doing like our bayonet training or anything on PCAM, you got they start screaming at each other's face, and you start putting it. You bayonet into the sandbags, and they ramp you up, and then you can just turn it off and just go back to the block or whatever. And then they make us do a thing called like milling as well. So like 60 seconds in front of someone. Obviously that was in documentary, and then you got to like punch each other. It's like a bit of a like fist fight, just to see if you've like got a bit of balls about you and just things like that. But yeah, you can always just turn it off a lot. And then what I've learned in the military, and because I've got friends that are in special forces, etc. Like if you ever meet any of the ones that are the best soldiers on that and the biggest like animals on tours and stuff, like the best soldiers, when you meet them in person, you wouldn't even think of a soldier, the nicest people you meet. Same in like your martial arts as well, like the top tier fighters of our era, like your Khabibs and GSPs, etc. If you meet them, you like they're just so humble and like nice sort of thing. So I think that's not just military. I think that goes throughout life really. Like if people are generally got something about them, or they're like, dangerous and they know what they're capable of, they tend to be like quite nice. So that's what I've learned throughout my life. The people that down the pub starting on fights, taking the top off and stuff, they're normally the insecure ones. Anyone that's like either competed at martial arts at a high level or they've military at a high level, they're normally just like family guys and just down to earth people, really, from what I've ever met. I don't know if that's the same for yourself. Or
yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I mean, from the people I've met, most certainly, I think you're 100% right. I was going to ask you about the Millen actually, because obviously with an interest in boxing and a bit of a boxing background yourself, I mean, that's controlled aggression, isn't it? It's some people might think it's you just got to go and you're trying to knock somebody out. That's not the case, and I guess it's once that minute stops, or once your commanding officer or your sergeant or whatever says, right, that's it, stop. You've got to stop, because some people I can imagine continuing because they can't control their aggression.
Yeah, that's one of the main reasons for a test as well, Steve, is to be able to switch off when you have to as well. That's just as important as being able to switch on, because if you can't switch it off, you can be a liability to the team. It's the same as yourself for when you used to work on the doors. If you had someone in the team if a fight breaks out, and you have to get hands on, but then when it's calmed down, it's stopped. If he still wants to carry the fight on and fight everyone in sight, he sort of turns into like a bit of a liability. Then he causes more trouble and stuff. So there's more of that soldier, and that's one of the tests for the men, is to be able to like teach and see which lads can turn it on, but also just as important, be able to turn it off when they have to as well.
Where was your first posting?
First posting I did. As in what for training UK? I was based down in Colchester.
I mean, once you'd passed out, where were you first sent away? Because I mean, back in the day, you used to have to go to Northern Ireland and do a stint, or you went to Germany.
Well, I was based in Colchester in Essex, which was brilliant, to be fair, because it was a good town. It was lively. The nightlife was good. The shops were good. It was like out of all the places to be, it was actually a blessing, really. So Colchester, Essex, I've got really good memories down there. But when my first abroad post that we did, when we started training abroad, we went on exercise. I went out to Kenya and did a lot of work out there on exercise, because we were used to like training in Scotland and Wales and stuff, because it was always raining. It was always cold, so you got to pack your kit and you got to train in your mat read and everything in like the cold and wind, etc. But we had to adapt our training to like in the hot. So because we were also going out, getting ready to go out to the Middle East, like Afghanistan and Iraq, etc. So we started training in the hot weather climate. So that's be there on top cover out in Kenya.
Hell of an experience to go to a foreign country, I guess. Had you been abroad before?
Yeah, only on like family holidays and stuff, but not too many. I didn't go on too many holidays as a kid, really, abroad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one thing I've often heard from a lot of guys who've been in the military, who I've got to know over the years, is that you work hard but you play hard. Was that the case in Kenya for a young Ryan?
Yeah, well, we got at the end of I think it was like 6 or 7 weeks we were out there, or just short of 2 months we were out there. But the last sort of 2 or 3 days we did, we had your R&R and you had like your adventure training. But I always loved the adventure training in the military. It was brilliant. We got to do like your white rock rafting and like mountain bike rock climbing, like bungee jumping, like that, like sort of stuff. We did even when we go back to the UK, we did adventure training. We go down Newquay and stuff, hit a bit of surfing up and do coastal steering. Do you jump different places where you jump off into the cliff, into the sea sort of thing.
Yeah.
Some of that could be like really like get a good buzz sort of thing. That was actually more probably more fearful doing that than jumping out of a plane into the air sort of thing, really. Like when you jump into the sea, I just always had the thing of water, so obviously I couldn't bottle it in front of the lads, but I was always more scared doing that than actually parachuting, to be fair, like the coastal steering side of things.
Did you have any moments like, I mean, that's a big thing as well, I guess, in the parachute regiment to jump out of a plane, I guess, I mean, anyone who's done it will tell you it's the most exhilarating thing you could ever do. However, was the nerves for you on your first jump?
On the first jump, you do like a clean fatigue jump, so you haven't got any kit with you, and I think you just jump out, but you're on a static line, so it releases it for you, so you haven't really got much to think about. I was normally like in the middle of the pack, really, because you have people that walk through and then like jump out, but it's just like random. But I was never really the front man. I was normally in the middle, so by the time you get to the front, it's like too late, really, and then the RAF lad or whoever just like ease you out sort of thing. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a really good buzz. I enjoyed going on the jumps course anyway, because it's good after smashing your body on the P Company sort of thing, because you go to the RAF camp in like Brize Norton and they have like better food than the army do, and they had like better gyms as well. So we used to just go to the gym all the time and like have good food and then do the jumps. Like that time at Brize Norton was like quality, to be fair.
I guess the jumping's the easy bit, it's the landing.
Yeah, a few people over the years have had like horror injuries, but I was always really, really lucky, Steve. I never had any knocks at all. I always landed really good. I never. We get drilled to like you count to like 4 seconds, and then you look up to check your canopy, and you got to make sure you're not in any twists, or you got to pull your reserve, or you got to get out your twist. But I was always like super lucky in all of mine. I never even got into any twists, let alone any bad landings. So I got lucky, which I was happy about. That's the only thing I'd be scared of. I'd be scared to like get injured, because if you get injured, then you can't train, which like train's a big part of my life. So it's like if you can't train, like for your mental health and stuff, it just drives you mad when you're injured. Because I'm actually injured at the minute. I've like hurt both my knees. I've done the MCL on my knees, like in some like freak accident in just in Thai boxing, just doing a bit of clinch work. Like a base out, my knee went, so I'm obviously on a bit of a down and out, gutted. So that's the only thing I was scared of jumping. I thought, oh, please Christ, just make sure I don't get injured.
Yeah, I can imagine. So when was the first time that you actually saw action?
First time I deployed was 2008. Deployed about, I think it was about March, April time to start like the summer tour, because we was out there for the whole summer. That was on Herrick 8.
And what can you go into what you were doing out there?
Yeah, we was based in, well, when the regiment like landed at like Camp Bastion, that's sort of a safe hold place, and then they get told like where you go and like from there. And the unit I was attached to, we got put up to like FOB Inkerman, which was a quite active like FOB, but that's short for Forward Observation Base. So when we was out there, it was kicking off like quite a lot. It was a good FOB to go to, really, and it was obviously at that sort of time in that era, like it was at its most active as well. So it was. And really
was this Afghanistan?
Yeah, this is Helmand Province. Yeah, southern Afghanistan. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've sent us a few photographs. Can you tell us what these photographs are?
Yeah, that's one of the Sangans from that FOB. That's my nan's initial on my hand there. See the bottom right corner, J for Jennifer. That's my nan. So she'd come out with us. I went, yeah, that's just one of the Sangans where we were like sort of stagging on. Really, that was just looking out of camp.
Okay, this one.
Yeah, that was like inside the FOB. That was one of the mortar lads that were doing that. one of the nighttime ones.
Okay.
Yeah, that was on top of that's a 50 caliber like weapon. That was on top of like a Land Rover that's been turned to like armored. We call it like Wimics. So if like that mainly got used on our fob, if out the back there's a HLS, which stands for helicopter landing site. So we needed like resupplies or to get any of the blokes back to Bastion for whatever reason, a Chinook helicopter would like come down, but the lads used to take them out and like secure it, because that's normally when the Taliban would like sort of fire RPGs or go to attack. They always look to hit the helicopters or the Chinooks. So that was like us like fire support protecting it.
A big bit of equipment. That is this you? Is this one of your friends?
That's me. Just a bit
wow.
skinny. Just a bit
I'm going to
skinny.
say it. That's what threw us a little bit. And it's with a bit of a distance. I wasn't sure. So that's you.
Probably featherweight back then, or even bantamweight. I don't know. Nearly heavyweight now. They went in the lockdown. But yeah, that's what was hat on. Yeah, sometimes when that was the 50 caliber one there, sort of thing. Cutting about, it's got a good tan on, sort of thing.
And is that? I mean, would you use that, or are you just posing with that to show the hardware that's on display?
That was where our CP my base was. That was sort of parked just behind it, and then that was ready to go out the back of it, and then like protect like the HLS sort of thing. Yeah, but yeah, sometimes we'd always have our helmet and body armor when we're active, sort of thing. But to be fair, if you hit like a mine or whatever underneath that, it gets like you get flung up so high if you hit like an IED, whatever. Like even if you had your helmet and body armor on, like you ain't gonna do much good anyway. You're gonna get like blown to smithereens, really. But a lot of the lads, when you got the body armor and the helmet on, because when you're in that heat, like especially a couple of Scottish lads when we first got there, we were acclimatised, and some of them were like borderline like fainting. I think we had a couple of people like near enough like faint sort of thing as well, because it's so hot out there. But like the human body is like a incredible thing. It like evolves and adapts in short periods of time. Like so, give it like a month, all the lads were like sort of used to the hot weather, really.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. And again, just one of the vehicles, I guess, it just shows you again what kind of serious situation you were in the middle of.
Yeah, probably it was probably one of the worst fobs. I think got a lot of incoming and people like mortars coming in and everything, and yeah, it was really active. Like I think one of the days I have kicked off like most days and stuff. Really, at a certain point, I think either like the month before Ramadan or the month after it, they sort of leave alone on Ramadan, but either side of the Ramadan, that's when it like kicked off really bad, I think.
And this one, obviously, this is from an aircraft. I mean, is this when you were approaching?
Yeah, I think this is what we have one of Lynx helicopters. This is actually like either one of the RF or Navy ones. That's just when you go when you're leaving camp, or if you're going on your R&R. So, but that was just one of the pictures when we were. That's when I was leaving, actually. Because when I come in on a Chinook, but that was the one when I was leaving. That was.
Yeah, fascinating. Just fascinating images. Is this at night or is this early morning?
That's just dusk. It's just one of 50 cows again, like looking out the back. Looks like it's just first thing in the morning. Because with the Taliban, they used to never fight us at night time, Steve, because they knew they'd just get hammered because they never had night vision, whereas we did. So at night time, you're usually like pretty safe, really. They never really attack at night time.
I mean, it's a vast wilderness, isn't it? I mean, I don't think you can appreciate it until you're actually there, you know, what you're actually looking out onto. And I mean, obviously, you're dealing with heat, you know, something which I don't have to deal with in Newcastle. But joking aside, it's just this vast wilderness, isn't it? And it's a different climate. And I guess just, you know, not knowing when an attack is going to come as well is another thing which plays on your mind. It's all about that mental training that you had to do in those early days.
Yeah, you just got to like switch off, really. It sounds pretty strange. When you was there, it didn't even seem like it was anything that mad like going on, because it was just sort of like you sort of a product of your environment. So sort of after a while, it just sort of seemed normal, like strange as that sounds. And the blokes like to the left and right, they were in the same boat as well. So it wasn't really till I got home, and then a couple of weeks have passed, and you're at night time, and then you start thinking of some things that happened and how it was, and you start thinking, oh, well, I was pretty crazy actually. But when you're out there, you sort of get immune to it. I suppose it's the same as anyone really with like they get like exposed to like violence or whatever, it just sort of becomes like a bit like normal.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it, and it's great to look back, I guess, on these photographs. And I mean, I presume that's spent ammunition. Is it from an attack or?
Yeah, that got fired. That was one of the sergeants that fired that out of like one of the Sangers, West Sanger. Is he West or South? I think it was the West Sanger, but there's some like rounds that got fired. That wasn't actually me that fired them, to be honest. It was one of the sergeants.
It paints a picture, though. It paints a terrifying picture. And this, I mean, is this a helicopter that got taken down?
Yeah, that's an Apache helicopter that the Taliban hit with like an RPG. That didn't actually happen at Fobbing. I can't actually remember where that happened, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was while we was out there when the Apaches got hit by a different fob.
It just shows the dangerous situation you found yourself in, mate. You did send us one other photograph, and it's this one. Tell us a story behind this.
Yeah, I can't remember when this was in the tour, but we got a bit of like incoming, and that was one of the mortar that landed inside the fob, not far from where some of the guns and stuff were. But actually the fin, it managed to stay intact, like really, really good, and it's like a miracle how it like stayed like in that sort of piece, like even though it did go off. So that's actually in one of the UK museums at the minute. I'm not sure which one it even is, but they've actually kept that in one of the museums. But a couple of lads got a couple of pictures. We sort of had a look at it before they took it away. But yeah, that actually landed not far from us.
Was that probably your most terrifying experience being out there?
What that?
Just in that situation in Afghanistan,
yeah,
was that in your military career? Was that probably, when you look back now? Was that
like it was made? If you speak to a lot of people at that time I've been on tours elsewhere, that was like the one really, like Afghanistan and Fobbington and like that Helm Friends. That's when it was at its peak. That's what was like kicking off like quite bad. I think it like even surprised a lot of the hierarchy guys as well. I think it was on the news quite a lot as well. They didn't expect it to. Sort of from like 2006 to 2009, like 2008, like that sort of period, I think they got like they underestimated the Taliban quite a lot, to be fair. And I think with the resupplying and stuff, they sort of struggled. That's why if there's any like books out there, that's always in that sort of like time period. So that was good. That's why I'm quite happy. Like I was like to be a part of it, really. So
I am going to ask you the obvious question, and that is obviously what's happened in Afghanistan in 2021. You've probably seen and lost some close friends. You've seen action out there yourself. The Taliban are back in control now, and I guess a lot of us are scratching our heads and thinking, well, even us who weren't involved or had family members involved, what was it all for?
Yeah, that's a question I can't really answer, to be fair. And it's a deep one at that. But when it did happen, like I know quite a lot of the lads in the regiment and in the military were hit quite hard by it, sort of thing. What I've seen on social media, some people worse than others, but some people generally were like really, really gutted. I tried to like not really let affect me really. I tried to put a positive spin on it. I said like when we was there, we did a couple of good things. So like a couple of like women got a bit of education, a couple of kids like got some got to go to school a bit safer, etc. or whatever. But yeah, as a whole, it was quite shocking, really. To the thing that I think that surprised the public and everyone, even the military personnel, how quickly it happened. It wasn't like a quick turnover. It was literally like less than a week, wasn't it? It was like literally a few. I can't remember what it was, like a few days, and boom, was straight back in power. But in a strange way as well, I wasn't even surprised either when they all pulled out. It wasn't like because we had some A&A lads, Afghan National Army. We tried; they were like getting trained up by us, sort of thing, and you could just tell really, like, just weren't really on the caliber. They needed a lot of help out there. Like as soon as they pulled out, like, and it wasn't going to take long. I didn't expect it to be that quick, but it was just straight going. So there's quite a lot of secret Taliban out there as well. People didn't pretend, like, and they turned coat like straight away, didn't they? I think there's a lot more Taliban out there than people like British intelligence, American intelligence think. Like,
did you ever have any close shaves out there? Was there any times where your life was at risk?
Yeah, I think for Inkerman, like on the second day there was like building a shower and an SPG G9 round like come like hit the wall like right next to us and nearly like blew me and my pal up. That was one of the closest ones that happened like straight away. But that was just like sort of like made for really, like sort of got like a good buzz sort of thing. Like I think that's why I got into MMA really, because when it like kicks off out there, or you can't really replicate it in normal life. So if I jump into the octagon and have a scrap sort of thing, it's only like 10% of the buzz you're probably going to get from what I got out in Afghanistan. But at least it's something to keep it at bay, sort of thing. So
we'll come to that in the second part.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a shout out to the sponsors. Before I do that, I just want to ask you about PTSD. I mean, it's something which we see a lot about now, thankfully, because I think men realise now that they've got to talk. It's not a weakness to talk, and we see. I've seen it when I've been on holiday in America, especially lots of ex-servicemen living on the streets, living rough, not looked after by the country that they defended for years. PTSD is a major problem in this country. We've seen it, ex-military tend not to get looked after in this country either. Have you been okay since you came away from that?
Yeah, in all fairness, I've been like really lucky. I haven't really suffered from any, but I've got like friends that have, and you can see like some good blokes go like downhill like quite fast. And you're right about maybe that sort of era people didn't talk about as much as what they do now. When you get like big sports stars like Tyson Fury and stuff coming out and talk about it, it gets a bit more publicity. But people did know about it back then, but obviously it's a lot more known now than it was back then. But yeah, with PTSD, it's like the brain's a funny thing, Steve. I don't think we all really fully, the human race hasn't understood it like properly. There's still a lot of research to do there, and then hopefully one day they can potentially like find a cure or whatever. But yeah, it's a funny old thing with PTSD. I think it's like when the brain's like at that high edge all the time, it's hard for them to come back. So if they come back and then they go on a night out, they'll probably someone bumps into them and they'll probably just start a riot, or whereas before they wouldn't. And a lot of the lads got in a lot of trouble when they got back. You know what I mean? And some people used to never, because I don't really drink, and some of the lads I used to do all the cross country with and the running and train all the time, they used to like train all the time. And then we got back, and then 6 months later they're getting like drunk every day. And it's like, oh, you didn't used to drink before we went there. Like, how come you're getting like smashed all day or every day and stuff? But yeah, I don't really understand it, but it's definitely a problem that's clear for everyone to see. And there's a little fact for you, Steve, as well. In Mad Battle Group, more people actually committed suicide than actually got killed and injured. Like from today, like that was on the battle group with us, that actually were injured or killed when we were out there. So that's actually like a true stat. So it must be something. It's not like made up or anything. It's like definitely real life. It's something is actually there.
Yeah. Great stuff. Well, anybody out there who is suffering from mental health, please reach out to somebody. Don't keep it to yourself. Pick up the phone and speak to somebody. It's a very important message. Spider VPN, thank you as always for your sponsorship. Google Spider VPN. They come up at the top of the Google search list, and they can help you with any computer issues that you may have. It can help with privacy issues on your computer as well. Well worth speaking to the lads at Spider VPN. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245, and to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks also to Arcot Interiors for all your kitchen needs based on Heaton Road in Newcastle. Google Arcot Interiors and they can give you a good, valuable quote today. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and to jabsignature.co.uk. That is the place to go for all of your boxing needs. And if you're a first-time visitor to the channel, welcome. Hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner to subscribe to the channel for free. We do 7 shows a week minimum, usually do a few more. Always worth checking in to see what we've got on offer. Hit the thumb up underneath the video to like this video. Click share to your social media, and drop into the comments box below to leave a comment about today's show. And we're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. Usually goes up within 24 hours of the show going out. Okay, you mentioned MMA and you mentioned fighting at the start. How did you get into the MMA sport?
Well, by the time I'd finished, like, come towards the end of military career, well, getting back from the tours, etc., like MMA had like hit off. I think like people like Chuck Liddell and TOTs and stuff, and like I think 2008, 2009. It was that sort of era, like really sort of like kicking off, and like Randy Couture come about, and everyone was like, oh, everyone was jumping on this MMA. So naturally, like just I thought I'd just jump in and give us a shot. Started going training, and I was like hooked right from the get go. I think that helped with, like you said, like maybe that's why I didn't suffer PTSD as well, because I got hooked on a new addiction, which was obviously MMA, and then. Back then, like I was like training like every day, like wouldn't miss a session, like every day. I was loving it. It was all new, like, and it's just like the sport's blowing up now, obviously with like Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey, all the superstars that come through. It's like obviously mainstream like now, but back then it would just come on the scene, but it wasn't like as big. But yeah, I just jumped onto it, and I was eager to like jump in and have a go and have a few fights here and there. I was a bit too eager, to be fair. When I was probably, I should have waited a bit, to be fair. I was just eager to get in there. Like, should have waited till skill level got better. But there was more the training that I just enjoyed it, Steve, to be fair. Like, I think it's brilliant. Like,
how did you find that discipline from boxing? I mean, you were boxing as a youngster. Did you find much difference in there? Because obviously with MMA, there's a bit of ground and pound. You know, there's different things that you can do. Did you prefer boxing to MMA? Because I'm a boxing man. I preferred boxing. I never got into MMA. I just couldn't enjoy it. All the lads on the door around us were in it. They were training. They were doing it. It wasn't for me.
Yeah, that's another thing as well, because everyone started like doing the MMA. So I had to, if I was working the doors in local area, I had to make sure I could like compete with them guys as well. And yeah, with the doors, when I did that, I was just like sort of that was paying for my training, because when I got out. I didn't have as much funds like for the training, so I used to like do the doors. So I had more training to pay for pad men, or because I used to with the MMA, I used to train at multiple gyms. I used to travel around the country, loads of different gyms here, there, even travel abroad to train, like Holland, like Thailand, etc. and stuff. So I needed the cash, so that's why the main reason I did doors. But with MMA training, I just found like peace with it, like, and it was completely different to boxing. It was like a whole new. Like addiction, really, a whole new like game change. But with boxing was always first love, and even to this day, if like the top boxers like fighting like your Canelos and Triple Gs, etc. Like I prefer watching like a good boxing fight if it's evenly matched. But for actually doing and training, I always prefer the MMA, which is weird. So I obviously enjoy watching the UFC and stuff, but I do actually enjoy the boxing more to watch, because that's sort of my first love. But with the MMA, to do the training, it's like I just find it so much more fascinating and enjoyable than the boxing. Just I actually enjoy the grappling and stuff, and it's better for the doors and for the close protection work, Steve, as well. Because if you're like scrapping someone on the dance floor, if you just get them in a hold and like take them out, it looks quite good, because it makes you not look like you're a bully or whatever, and you're not going to really doing much damage to them, and you're not going to do much damage to yourself. But with like punching people and stuff, you're going to be breaking your hand all the time, and plus it looks bad, doesn't it? And you're going to be hurting them and stuff. So I think it's good to know it's more practical for the close protection as well. Like you can use them skills; they transfer a lot better, I think, than the stand-up fighting.
I've got to be honest. I mean, you say it's good for the door. I've got one incident that I actually had where I'm not going to mention the guy's name to save him embarrassment, but we were working on a bar in Newcastle, and he decided to put into action some of his MMA training in the middle of a bar. And there was only two of us on. There was 500 people in the bar, and he decides to go into the middle of the bar on his routine check, get his arm behind probably one of the biggest kids we've ever had in the bar. And he wasn't, don't get us wrong, he wasn't muscly, but he was about 20 stone of fat. And he got behind him, put his hands behind his head, pulled him towards him, and then rode him onto the floor. Then tried to get him back up. Fantastic. He couldn't. So I had to go in. We're just very lucky that the 15 or so people who he was with that day didn't have the gumption to turn on us and decide to take their anger out on us. I managed to talk a couple of them down, and we got them out. But needless to say, I gave that doorman a piece of his mind that night, and I refused to work with him again, because ultimately he could have put us in a hell of a position. Using his MMA skills, if you like.
You've got to be careful who you work with, Steve, because if you work with some of the wrong door staff, you end up you bring like more trouble to yourself, I think, because the public don't like see, they wouldn't like pick like one doorman out, he was being out of order. The other, they're all right. They'll just see like a doorman and just take it out as a blanket, or they'll come back next weekend and say, "Oh, doorman here, fucking like knobs or whatever." Like they'll take it back on you. They don't really like when they're drunk in the public. They just see you all as the same same team, don't they? But that's what you got to be careful who you work with, definitely.
Oh, 100%. Sometimes you don't get the choice of who you work with. That's the problem.
That's
Just finishing up on the MMA. I mean, how far did you go in it? I mean, I've been through, some of the photographs you've had, and you've obviously had a few fights. Did you win anything doing the MMA?
Yeah, to be fair, like I just use it like for when I got out of the military. So there's just something a new thing to do. But I obviously got that title there. I think that was from Impact Fight UK. And then won that belt, and then I went on to. I was in the IMAF, so the GB team that fight in the European Championships. So I got to like fight for Team GB, which is obviously good because obviously I got to fight for like Great Britain out in Afghanistan, etc. And I got to do it in the octagon, so I was always happy with that little tick in the box. But yeah, to earn a living, it's hard to like earn a living with it really, and then let's take it to the next step. I just sort of always just like loved it for whatever reason. I don't know why, but then it opened doors up for the close protection because obviously that's where I make my money for my family really. So with the fighting, as much as I loved it, it was always other stuff in my life that really sort of bring the bread to the table.
Yeah, I mean, MMA is, for you, as I say, you enjoyed fighting, you enjoyed it, you've tested yourself, getting to the octagon, big achievement that as well. The security, you mentioned door work, so let's talk door work first. I mean, you and I, that's another thing we've got in common. I did 18 years of the door in Newcastle. I worked in London. I worked in Ibiza. So been around a bit and done the job. How did you find doing the doors? Because, like you already said, you have to be able to trust the person you're working with first of all, or the people that you're working with. They've got to have your back. You've got to have theirs. You've got to have trust in those people. Sometimes you thrust together if you're working for a security company. So you sometimes don't get the choice of who you're working with. But I mean, how did you find it? Any hair raising experiences for you?
Yeah, we had a few like sort of bad situations like here and there, but I thought it was like quite good because it's quite similar to the army in a way, really. Like my regiment as well, they quite like the rugby as well. If like doors, rugby, like just like being a team, like you got each other's backs. It's good, like and then you put yourself in a dangerous situation every now and again, like sort of happens. So I thought that was a good thing to wing me away from the military as well. So it probably helped my mental health like quite a lot as well, like getting involved in that because it has quite a lot of similarities. But I always enjoyed the doors. So you never really got fantastic money from it, but you're going to meet friends for life. You're going to build up your people like skills. I've made friends with people at doors. I'm still friends to now, and you can meet a few like just good people, a few nice girls, a few nice lads, like people in your area. Like you sort of get to know everyone really as well. It's a good social networking like from the doors, and it can open up other things really because when you do the doors yourself, you get to meet everyone. So you can always like come across like some handy people to know that can sort out on other things in life.
I guess it's about networking as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think you and I are very similar in that respect. Always network, and you never know where it could lead to.
That's what you do, sort of thing. Yeah, like that's how I've sort of come across you from random networking in a sense, like not even for your security, like with your books. Like so obviously when you did the book for Paul Ferris, and obviously with the like mutual friends like with Jez and everything, and we went down to your event in Newcastle, and then the Sayers family that took us. I was in that house with you, wasn't I? When Tony, God bless his soul, when he took us in. That's the one thing I say. Sayers family like up there, they treat us like gold up there. They even sort us a nice hotel out and everything. And then we took us into the Tony took us into the house and stuff. And when I first met Stephen, he got us a drink and stuff. And it's just always been that sort of person like you are as well. You're better than me. Like you're a good talker, and you like just get on with people and like networking. It goes a long way in life. That's what it's like in the security industry. So from doing the doors, the amount of people you meet that are in the industry, they can give you good opportunities in the close protection world because you get to meet like so many different people, and some people could do you a favour like down the line. Like, I know for your CP job, I know this lad, he's good, or like I'll vouch for him. It's all about like getting rubber stamped as well, isn't it? It's like word of mouth. It doesn't matter if you got your badge or not. It's like your reputation.
You've looked after some stars, mind. I mean, it's one of the things that I've managed to achieve over the years as well, looking after different celebs. But I mean, have you had any, just going through the pictures, we showed Tyson Fury earlier. That was Ollie Murs. But I mean, have you had any situations with celebrities where you've had to do the old bodyguard routine and jump in and prevent something happening or whatever? I think probably the worst one I had was when I looked after Katie Price a couple of times, and just overzealous kids, I guess, trying to like jump in or grab the client or whatever. That was always a bit big difficulties for us. But other than that, I've been very lucky in that sense. And you often get warnings about different people who potentially could turn up and cause trouble. But I'm thankful to say that the CP jobs that I did were all without incident. What about you?
Yeah, I'll give you a little story then on. Because I was on YouTube and all that, but with like KSI, we're looking after the team's looking after KSI, Steve.
Yeah,
everything had like finished, and when we went back, when they're leaving in the Mercedes thing, some fan was like absolutely like dying to like meet him. He wouldn't take no for an answer for about the whole shift. Really, he was there for like 4 hours because he was a fellow YouTuber. He was dying to get his views up and everything, and he wouldn't take no for an answer. And then at the end, he ended up like jumping on in front of the vehicle, like trying to like make it stop, like about 2 or 3 times. It went while it was moving. Like, could have like seriously injured himself. He ended up getting arrested and everything. It's a long story, really, but it's like that's the length that some people will do. Like he was like literally like jumping in front of the vehicle. That's what I thought about when you said anyone like jumped in, you had to like get in the way. Like, he literally, this guy was like jumping in front of the vehicle, like trying to force it to stop. He was like desperate, like.
I've got to ask you about this guy, and I came across this scouring through your social media. Winston Ritter, of all the people for you to be photographed with, tell us about this guy.
Oh, that's a story. That was like quite local to us. One of the guys was taking him around different like venues and pubs and stuff because they had like a festival on sort of thing, have like on our way. And they had him going around trying to promote people to come to this festival. So we just went around with him. But he was funny, old Gordon. Yeah, the Wilson Raider. He got absolutely smashed, bless him. He was having a great time, he was.
Yeah, I mean, just anybody who can make a living out of just being filmed on social media, saying something which is the least likely thing you'd ever hear that guy say.
It was the most watched video on YouTube ever, isn't it?
I think so. Fantastic, mate. Okay, we said we'd finish off with this. We're coming up towards the end of the podcast, and we said we'd finish off with this. Now, this is a major event, and I mean, that is you with your back to camera. I think the flag on the front of that motor vehicle gives us a little indication of probably one of the biggest jobs you've ever done and probably one of the proudest moments in your CP career. Tell us about this.
Yeah, well, it's the biggest job. I can't really beat it, really. That was obviously part of the private security detail looking after the President of the United States of America. Obviously, like Joe Biden was at the seat at the time. But I always said to people, like anyone, because people prefer different presidents, etc. But it's not so much like who it is. It's like it's the seat, isn't it? So just the fact that it was the president is the main thing. And yeah, it's like a massive honor, really, because we was working with a Secret Service for that job, and I was one of the team leaders for the British teams. I was team leader for the night shifts, and we had one of the French Foreign Legion lads is a really good lad. He was in charge of the daytime, and it was just brilliant, Steve. When because that was during the day, that's when the media and the public and everyone knew where he was. So he was staying. That's when he was leaving. But on the way in, there was no photos and videos, etc. of that because they sort of snuck him in without people really knowing. And it was something out of a movie when I was there. It was such a good buzz and a great moment of my life because they had the air support come in. So you had helicopters quite low flying. All the vehicles and stuff. They had snipers were there, all the SWAT teams. They had no stone was left unturned. When it got in there, all the TVs got taken out. They had to bring their own TVs in case there was any bugging, and all the they welded all the drain pipes down on the road sort of thing in case there's any a bomb sort of thing what people used to do and stuff. And it was just like great, like surreal. Like when you're there, it didn't even like seem real. They even used one of the old cellars, a wine cellar in the hotel underneath as a nerve cell, so to look at like the set up the cameras and etc. to doing it. But the good thing was when you had all the police, like the sport, like the specialists on the outside, there was them, and then like there was us on the inner. So they had to like listen to all us, and then obviously the next one line, like we were working with like directly with the Secret Service. But that's why it was like one such a good moment, really, because it was Secret Service. Don't get any better than that. And to work for the Secret Service, you have to be an American citizen. You have to like and you have to be like born there. So if I spend my whole life, even if I become the best CP guy on the planet, I still wouldn't be able to be a part of that. So the fact that I got that opportunity is like literally once in a lifetime opportunity. I can't really like beat that. And then they obviously, when they finish a shift, they give us something to say thank you on the last day, which like meant the world to us, sort of thing. I've got here on the camera. They like got the old they gave us that coin. I'd say shit like cheers or thing, and then they give me one of their pin badges. I got it inside this as well, so it doesn't get damaged. We gave us a pin as well, so that was like great to be fair. Also, I got medals in the military and stuff like from Afghanistan, things that happened out there. I got them, but that meant more to us because it was something so that not many other people can like say. It's quite unique. I mean, that we've got to do something like that.
Ryan, that's fantastic, that, mate. And I mean, that's a piece of history in itself. So, what are you up to now?
So, well, I'm injured, mate. I'm still enjoying MMA. I'd love to like get a fight in this year because obviously this is like the start of the year. Get the weight down and have a go. I'm doing obviously still doing all my security work. That brings in like some good money for my family and destroying it. Apart from that, I've chilled out like quite a lot. Steve, I quite don't get out and about as much as I used to. I'm a massive like dog lover, so I'm always like with my dogs and stuff now. To be fair, but yeah, like, I'm not really too sure. Like really, what the future holds. What about yourself? You got any books coming out or any films? I know the Sayers in the film, isn't he? Or
yeah, the Sayers film's definitely going to happen. It's we're budgeting that now. 1st of February, 2022. We should have the budget done, and then hopefully the finance comes in. We've got a director, got a distributor, and then hopefully filming it in October. So we'll keep you posted about that. I honestly think at 33 years of age, with the life you've had, you should sit and write a book. Especially when you're sitting around at the moment injured, you should do it because there's a book inside everybody. The book about your military stuff. Your CP stuff and your MMA stuff would fascinate a lot of people, and I think it would be an inspiration to people out there. And I know you've already been on my good mate James English's podcast. You've done other podcasts, and I think people sharing your story is something which people would really appreciate. You know, so worth thinking about, even if it was just for the family to read in the future, and you didn't actually publish it. I think you should sit and write your story because it's a fascinating story, and I'm really pleased that you've chosen to share it with us today. You know.
Yeah, well, I haven't recorded with James yet, but that's what
I thought it was James that you'd done one. Was it? Did you do one with Sean?
Like I said, you got the exclusive because I haven't, like I said earlier, I haven't spoke to anyone about the president job yet until.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I thought you'd done one with James.
Yeah, so that's when you got in there quick, Steve. You got it nice and good. It was good how they got taken to Edinburgh as well. It's only 4 miles away from where the airport is. Like, because I can say it now, because at the time I couldn't like say it, I couldn't tell even no one in my family, like no one that who was working with at the time. But now because it's been in the Sun newspaper and been spotted in BBC, it's been everywhere, and they've got all the articles. So everything I've said, it's all like mainstream now, so everyone knows. But at the time they sort of fooled the public a bit. They had everyone that like think he was going to stay at the 5-star hotel in Glasgow, the Glen Eagles hotel. So obviously that's where the COP26 meeting was getting held. Then they like dipped them off, and then he was going to travel in a helicopter, but then because it was raining so bad, remember all that rain they had and all the floods, they were worried that like it was going to get like stuck, so that they did the convoy instead. But yeah, it was that was good. So I was glad that you got in there quick, so you can be the first person that I spoke to. Like, you got your connections with the films, then Steve, because like with the Craze family, didn't you? That's when you got into one of the Craze films as well. But then you said when because I know you're good friends of Charlie Bronson, you speak to him on the phone regularly. When was the last time you spoke to him?
Charlie Salvador, yeah. I mean, he's doing okay. Obviously, as we're recording this in January, he was asked to do a lateral flow test, which he refused to do. He's had his COVID jabs, which is good. I think he's just had his booster jab, but he was asked to do a lateral flow test, and he's in a CSU. He's in a closed unit, and he's only in there with 8 people. He doesn't see anybody. They pass his food through. They pass his food through the door because of COVID restrictions. They're all masked up. He didn't want to do a lateral flow test, so he's ended up going into isolation for 10 days. He's got 1 day left.
He's the king of isolation, isn't he?
Well, that's it. So he says it was like a holiday.
I still call him Charlie Bronson, but I know he's changed his name, Charlie Salvador, yeah.
But he's doing all right. He's a bit disappointed that his parole hearing isn't going to come up until September because he's won his case to have a public hearing. The and ahhing whether the public come into prison or whether he goes out, but ultimately he's doing fine, mate. And you should drop him a letter. You should drop him a letter. Drop him a line. He always responds. Just mention you've done the podcast with me, and as I say, I'm sure he'll respond to you in due course, mate. But
and I'll say Steve was happy. I caught him at a good time as well because Newcastle United have got all the money now, ain't you?
Well, as you know, we do a lot of football on this channel. Are you a football fan, Ryan? You said you didn't really get into football. Are you a football fan though?
Nah, not really so much into the football now, to be fair. But I just knew you'd be a happy man, big Newcastle diehard fan, and now you've got all the money. Like last time I seen you up in Newcastle, one of the skint teams in the Premiership. Now I spoke to you, what the richest team in the world now.
Richest team in the world, yeah. So as you've not assigned yourself to anybody yet, can I suggest that you join Newcastle United's fan base as a glory seeker now?
Oh no, if I want to be a glory, I'll stick to my Corby Town FC.
The Wheelston Raider, stick with him. Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate. Great to share your life story. Thanks very much for coming on, mate. And best of luck with your recovery and everything else you do, mate. And I'll see you real soon, mate. Take care.
Cheers, Steve. Thank you very much.